Hi everyone, welcome back to Take a Paycheck's Instagram account. Today we have a very special, something happening, and I'm just gonna wait on the guests. But as you can see in the title, we're exploring self-advocacy in juvenile arthritis. So our guests on right now, and then we'll be good to go. So just wait a few minutes. But yeah, hi.
Oh, hi.
I'm just trying to get everyone on here, so it'll be a bit, but thank you everyone for tuning in today. I'm just gonna type something in the chat.
Tech
I,
queen. Okay.
yeah, I know, right? I see Anna coming as well, so just make sure if you're a guest to request, and we should be good.
I've literally never hosted like an IG live, so I have no clue what tech is like, but like Godspeed.
I'm trying to accept people. Hi, Emily.
Hello. Oh, yes.
Oh,
Hi.
yes, we have everyone here. Okay, hold up. Let me just right in the chat. Everyone, you can feel free to ask questions throughout our Instagram live today. And yeah, okay, so I'm just not going to write that right now. But hi everyone, welcome to our Instagram live. It's called Exploring Self-Advocacy in Juvenile Arthritis. And today, Emily and I will be hosts. We'll kind of just get a round of introductions before we start. But yeah, we'll be kind of going through what advocating is like, in psoriatic arthritis, fibromyalgia, ankylosing spondylitis, juvenile idiopathic arthritis. We have a full house of diagnoses right now. So let's get started. So hi everyone, I'm Natasha. I live with juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and I am the host and founder of Take a Pain Check, and I'll pass it to Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Sirtich. I'm a patient partner. I'm also on the board of the Canadian Arthritis Patient Alliance, which is an amazing patient organization, and I'm finishing my PhD. And maybe I'll pass it on to Carly.
Yes. Oh my God. I don't even know where to start. Okay. Hi, I'm Carly, pronouns she, her, L. I am a researcher and communications officer for Needs. I'll go into that later. I also have a blog, Carly Fox Disability Advocacy. And let's just do bucket list diagnoses. Okay, I have psoriatic arthritis, fibromyalgia, generalized anxiety disorder, ADHD, PDS. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but like that's the vibe check.
Great. Let's pass it to Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna. My pronouns are they, she, and I have ankylosing spondylitis and fibromyalgia, and I'm an ambassador for Take a Pain Check and a writer for Health Union.
I
Yay.
I have fibro. Wow, that's the one. Fibropal. Get it.
Great. So I think we should probably just start off on, what does advocacy mean to you? What was your path of advocacy? And Emily, feel free to just, ask follow-up questions and things like that. So I think I'll pass it to, Carly and Anna to take it away.
Carly, do you want to start first again? Sorry, I'll keep
I
going
was
on you.
rock, paper, scissors this on live. Okay, so what does advocacy mean to me? I've been thinking about it so hard. Like I did like late night blog thing going on. But to me, I mean, advocacy means communicating your needs, your experiences, your concerns, and your goals with others in the disability experience, more so to get accommodations, but also just to make the world a bit more accessible. I feel like we often consider advocacy only in a disability lens, but we advocate in every aspect of our lives. Like if I got a bad grade on an essay, I'd go after a TA. That could be advocacy. But overall, just anything to make better outcomes for yourselves and others, that's what I would consider advocacy. You got to cut me off at some point. I will keep going. But the path that brought me to advocacy, so after I got diagnosed with JIA, I was 16. We had to set up some, high school accommodations. And I have this really cool relationship with my mom where she knows that I know what's best for me. So legally she had to be there. I was 16. So she would just sit in the corner and I would just have at them. But, it is uncomfortable and scary, and I'm pretty sure I cried in front of some staff, but I knew what I needed and I knew what I needed to get it. And I know I'm the best person to advocate for myself. So that's where I kind of started, but I got really challenged by it. Because when my JA got really bad, I considered dropping out of school. And I had no idea what options were available to me. So I entered that meeting and I was like, I have no clue what the options are. Can we go through them? And we did, and I got the sweetest deal of not dropping out of high school. I got to stay in band and everything, which is really cool. And that was just a really ideal outcome and overall a positive experience. I am confident. I cried in that meeting room though. And then like I became an adult, which is weird. And so you have to like transition into adult healthcare. And I moved 8 hours away from my hometown and my family. So I'm advocating. I mean, I moved in with a stranger from the internet. There's some advocacy there. And you know, I did have to, accommodations at university are different and weird and a little like decentralized. So it was easy because I kind of had some open conversations with professors, and I realized like my student accessibility center, they're not helping me. They're not helping our professors. No one knows what's going on. So just working together to explain where I'm coming from, what I need, how I can help them help me pretty much. And that's kind of where I learned that this is like a two-way constructed dialogue. So that is the path that brought me to advocacy.
I definitely have a lot of questions for you, Carly, but maybe I'll come back to them after Anna explains her story and what advocacy means to her, and then I'll just have questions for both of you, if that's okay.
So to me, advocacy means speaking up and listening. So I share my experiences with chronic illness and disabilities to raise awareness, especially in younger folks. And I try to stand up against ableism and encourage accessibility. So, you know, people listen to me. I listen to other people who also share their experiences. I learn a lot. And what brought me to advocacy was not knowing enough about my conditions. I just felt really alone and confused. And I just searched stuff up on the internet. I came across stuff on social media, and I was like, I am learning a lot here, and I feel like I have something I can contribute.
Yeah. That's really reassuring for me, I'm sure, to hear. And I know Take a Pain Check is definitely one of those amazing sources of community, just to throw in some
free promo.
Promotion there. But I think talking about the struggle of realizing what accommodations you actually need and what's available is always such a hard first step. And then being able to still ask for those and continue those and really talk about, okay, how can I make sure that I'm supported throughout? But I feel like just being thrown into what does accommodations mean and what does it mean to have access, or what is ableism, is like a really big component. So do you two want to talk about that a little?
I mean, I could definitely go for it if you want.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I get to university, so in high school they're like, yeah, like we'll let you use a laptop to type, get out of my office. And then in the university I call this like really nice lady, and this is not everyone's experience, but she's like, okay, so like here's what we can give, and it's like a 20 item list, and I'm like, I don't need like half of these, but like kind of want them. Like I learned I can get like an ergonomic chair and a desk in my classroom. Like, oh, and I can get like my classes in person, like right beside each other, so I don't have to like do the cross campus run. But I mean, it's really interesting because we're seeing the concept of accessibility and accommodations expand. And so there are new accommodations that no one ever thought possible, especially as technology, you know, advances. We're seeing like captioning. It was so hard for a lot of people before the pandemic, and now, I mean, Zoom has a really nice live transcript that you can just pop on. And, you know, we're also learning as we go. For example, like I was in this conference and someone couldn't have their captions, you know, in the screen. They needed it in a separate browser. We spent like 5 or 10 minutes. I was a stakeholder here. This was not my kind of, I was not hosting, but we spent some time figuring it out because accommodations are always evolving as our environments evolve, as our needs evolve. And then just like throwing in some like chronically ill stuff, it's hard because I look fine. So, you know, if I'm sitting in that ergonomic chair and that ergonomic desk, someone's going to be like, why are you there? I'll be like, well, do you want to learn or do you want to just roast me? Like, pick one.
Yeah.
Right? So it also does feel weird, especially like with invisible disabilities, when you are actively and visibly using accommodations and people can't see that you're disabled in like that negative stereotype kind of way. But still using them, still doing the best we can. I forgot the question, so I'll stop talking now.
I think you answered it, so it was perfect.
Yeah. I just wanted to add something to what Carly said. I think like definitely even in a school environment, I think that's basically what we've been emphasizing since we started this live. Like it's been really big in a school environment where we have to kind of advocate for ourselves. And that's not just reading the chat for a bit, but interesting. But that's not just for, you know, other peers that, and like it's not only other peers that look at us and say, okay, we can't see this, we want to make comments, but it's also, you know, teachers, staff, like it's them too, right? Like it's not just, we don't just want, you know, my peer to really understand what I'm going through. You don't have to understand what we're going through, but you need to understand that it is invisible. And like you saying things like, oh, I can't see it, so you don't deserve these accommodations. It's not just the peer that says that, it's also other people in the whole school building. And I don't know, like I've advocated obviously for my needs to staff, to teachers, principals, vice principals in high school, but like I don't know, it's not just peers. And I think maybe both of you have a lot to say to that as well. Like, did you have any problems or circumstances where, you know, it wasn't a peer that was, you know, telling you that, okay, like you don't have this condition, but, you know, advocating and kind of like for your teachers to accommodate you? Because yes, it can go through success services or student success services, but, you know, that just still doesn't mean that the teacher is going to believe you. So I think I'll pass it to Anna to talk maybe if you have any certain experiences. It could be high school, university, where, you know, it was a high school teacher or something, or university professor.
Honestly, I experienced that in high school and university. Um, in high school, like, you know, they set up like an individual like education plan, an IEP, whatever it was called. And like the person who set it up was really nice and super understanding about it. And they said that they would communicate that to the teachers. And I was like, great. So everyone's going to be connected. Everyone's going to know what's going on. And then I get to my classes. I'm trying to, you know, use the accommodations that were set in place for me. And the teachers have no idea what I'm talking about. And they're like, yeah, you can't just be doing stuff like that in my class. Like, you can't just go to a different room to write a test. Like, what about all the other kids? Like, I can't just make exceptions for you. And I was like, but you're supposed to. And like, I thought that I just kind of struggled through high school that way, got through it. And then I was like, in university, I think this will be better because like they probably have like more resources. But it's kind of the same thing where I'm set up with the accessibility services. I have my accommodations in place, but, and like the profs do get notified about it, but like whether they actually let me use those accommodations is really up to them. And that's kind of terrifying depending on, you know, like the biases that these profs have. Like if I ask for an extension because, you know, I'm going through a flare up, like for an assignment or something, and they're like, no, I can't, you didn't give me enough notice, even though it's like a week ahead or something, it's really frustrating because you go through that tiresome and exhausting process of getting your accommodation set up only to have it depend on like one person's whim.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating. And that's just in terms of school. Like there's other stuff too. Like I like going to hang out with like family or friends and something, and I need my cane if I'm walking around or standing for a bit. And you know, people see me, they see that I'm young, and they're like, "Oh, you don't need your cane." Like I've had my aunt just like take my cane away and be like, "No, you're fine." And it's like,
What?
"Ma'am, what am I supposed to do?" And it's just so frustrating. And like
Yeah.
people will kind of laugh it off, but like it's really frustrating because it makes going to places and, you know, being included harder because like
Yeah.
accommodations can be like
Not
so
guaranteed.
fickle. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find something that, you know, there's always going to be, I find, which isn't right, people that are there and deciding what you deserve. But did you find a personal way to like overcome this? So emotionally or like mentally, it's easier to deal with as you're going through it. Like it's hard just to be in that type of situation. So did you have any like tips or strategies that you use to really like help like center yourself or like help you feel supported? like for me, for example, I had a friend who was amazing and always there and could kind of relate to me. So I found that was really helpful even when these things happened, right? So I don't know, maybe did you have anything similar or something that you found helpful? Either person. I'm just kind of throwing it in the air. Carly, do you want to go?
I will be like, I will be like pretty upfront about it, like because of white privilege and because of like I don't look disabled. I don't really run into barriers with self-advocacy. I'm always received really well because
Okay.
I don't look disabled. I don't get any like, you know, stereotypes or prejudices most of the time because I look like this and act like this. So I don't
Yeah.
really have a lot of those experiences. I've heard from a lot of people that they do, but I'm not gonna act like I do. I'm gonna own up to that.
Okay. And thank you for sharing that. I see a lot of comments in the chat. Anna, maybe if you want to answer Emily's question and then we can get to those because there are a lot piling up and we should definitely get through some of those. But yeah,
Sure.
Anna, did you have any experiences?
Yeah, it's like it's really okay. I'm just not a very like assertive person. I kind of struggle with communication because of like brain fog and other things. And like once I finally advocate for myself, like whether it be like with a doctor or like you know, family or friends or something, um, it's just really frustrating when they're like, no, but you seem fine. But they see me on good days. You know, they
Yeah.
don't see me when I'm struggling. But it's really frustrating because they'll just be like, oh, it's anxiety, or like, oh, you're just like a woman, even though I'm non-binary. It's just really frustrating. Or like they'll chalk it up to like a cultural thing or something, which is really annoying because like my struggle is still there regardless of how like, you know, my culture affects it. It's just that's like an added thing. I'm still having those struggles, and it's just really frustrating to not be taken seriously, especially when you've done the work beforehand. Like you've prepared, you've made notes, you kind of like, you know, practiced what you're gonna like say and how it's gonna go, and you try to like consider all the possibilities, and you're still not taken seriously. And it's really frustrating and disheartening because then you kind of feel alone in your um like accessibility struggle. It's kind of like I am doing all that I can on my part, but you know, no one's cooperating me or no one's supporting me to, you know, do what I need to do for myself. And it's just it's hard.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think everyone here kind of agrees with that. So I'm just going to read some of the comments that we got. So someone's sharing, I was diagnosed with RA at 15 years old. It was tough advocating for myself, but with my mom having RA, she pushed me to advocate for myself in high school and college, especially. So does anyone have any like, you know, siblings or parents that have rheumatic diseases and like how have they actually supported you through that? Yes, Carly, I know. Go ahead.
Action was like, no, I don't. And then I realized like my twin literally got diagnosed with JIA 2 years before me. And I'm like, no, I do have family. I need to incorporate more twinningness. I'm a twin. My twin has ankylosing spondylitis right now, fibromyalgia. And it really, really changed how I experienced my disability because no matter what, I knew someone who was going through something similar, if not literally the exact same thing. So if I had an issue with my, you know, this one teacher, she probably has that teacher. She's probably been through it too. There's always, and it really helps you feel not crazy when you have someone to be like, is this normal? They'll be like, no, that's not normal at all. So, you know, I think also just having that constant validation and that like knowing it's not all in my head really changed how I approach self-advocacy. And it's kind of why I've been able to do it and, you know, believe in myself, I guess. So also shout out to my mom who's watching this right now. I know it was a family question. So mother.
Yay. Anna, what about you?
I don't really have any like family who has like any of these sort of issues, but then it's also kind of a cultural thing to not really seek out uh like healthcare for these kinds of things. So I'm convinced that my mom does have some of these issues, but I just know that she would like never really uh seek out care, and if she does, I feel like she would deny it. but I just see her struggle with a lot of the same things, and I see her empathize with me and, care for me and help me out when I'm struggling with those things. And I think it comes from a place not just of like, motherly like care and love, but also like understanding and going through the same thing. But it is kind of a like weird thing to know that she understands what I'm going through, but that like she feels like it's something she can't admit to herself. I don't know. There's a lot of layers to it.
Yeah. Some other comments that we got were, I'm terrible at advocating for myself, mostly because of the anxiety.
Oof. Oof.
Felt that.
Felt
And
that one.
yeah. A question. Do you feel like physical disabilities are a bit less stigmatized than psychiatric ones?
I saw this question. Can I like, I don't know, like steal it, like volleyball mind kind of vibe?
Yeah, we can pass it around, toss it around. Go ahead.
Like, on God, I got some psychiatric stuff going on, and it's something I wrote a blog about it. There feels like there's this competition between, mental illness and psychiatric, disabilities and physical disabilities. Like, it's oppression Olympics, and I always hear like, oh, it's so easy to get physical disabilities. Why not physical accommodations, not mental health accommodations? And it really dismisses how hard it is to get accommodations in the first place. And it's just like we're fighting each other for no reason. But I've experienced both, and I can say like they're both stigmatized in really different ways. Really, just to sum it up, like, I don't know if we can say what's less or more stigmatized when there's so many nuances and complexities. And I mean, a lot of the time, I do not have a source, do not quote me, but like when you have a physical disability, you're twice as likely to have mental health issues. So, if we are being stigmatized for either one, I feel like there's some interactions between the two that we can't really divide, because that divides our experience, and then it's not really the real picture, if that makes sense.
Anna, do you have anything to add to that as well?
For sure. Like, I feel like mental illness and, physical illnesses or disabilities, they are so interrelated and really affect each other. And it's really hard to separate them. And it's frustrating because when you have both, like I do, getting care is really weird because it's so separated. So you're getting like care for like mental illnesses, but anytime you bring up anything about how your like physical disabilities affect it, the doctors or like psychiatrists will be like, okay, like that's not really my area, like let's focus on the other things. But it's like this directly affects my mental health, and also vice versa. Like if I'm struggling with fatigue or having like worse sleeping issues, which make my chronic illnesses worse because of like, depression or anxiety, like the rheumatologist or the other doctor won't address it. They'd be like, okay, you need to get that mental health stuff figured out and then we can address it. And I think healthcare just needs to have like a more intersectional like approach, and like just have doctors communicate with each other so that like the patient can actually receive the care they need instead of trying to put it together themselves. And then there's this whole stigma of like when the patient tries to put it together themselves. It's like, why are you doing this? You're not the doctor. You think you know more than me? And it's just, there's just so much to it. But I really think that like mental illnesses or psychiatric illnesses and physical like disabilities, they come with their own challenges. They also have some overlap, but they come with their own challenges. So it's really hard to say which one's worse or which one's like easier to get care for.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of ask, how do you advocate for yourself in the doctor's office? Because we were kind of talking about, what happens at the doctor's office in some instances. And maybe you can give us an example of what you've done to advocate in, a doctor's office. Carly?
Carly, oh my gosh, like, I can be so assertive, and I can like, just absolutely bring it all when it comes to personal stuff and like work or school, and then you drop me in that doctor's office and I'm like, can I get help, please? Like, it's night and day, really. Every time you think I know what I'm doing with self-advocacy, take me to a doctor's office where because it feels like life or death, and sometimes it is life or death. Just having that power asymmetry and literally having to beg for your life. I mean, how can anyone succeed in self-advocacy when they feel like that? It's a lot to struggle with. And I'm really, really lucky here in Ottawa. There's this really cool transition clinic for kids. I know, I
I
would
have to go.
for me, but like literally mind blowing. And it's meant for kids. Am I a kid? I'm 20. Meant for people my meant for people my age with diseases just like me. And the rheumatologists, the doctors there, they are used to young adults figuring out how to self-advocate. So even if I'm choked up, even if, there's a tear or two, like I'm saying what I have to say, and they are encouraging, they're very supportive. They're very stressed and busy because it's the healthcare system. But I think just even if you choke up, even if you tear up, you don't have a choice. You have to struggle through it. You have to get the words out. Something that I started, especially around mental health, because that's feels so much harder to talk about. I would have notes on my phone. And if I was really choking up, I could just be like, please read this. Because at a certain point, your doctor will be like, yeah, I'd rather read this than listen to you try to get through this. So having notes on your phone, keeping documentation with you, just being prepared that it's going to be hard and you're going to have to do it anyways. That's how I advocate for myself in medical care.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
I kind of agree with that. Like I also get really choked up and like I'll prepare so much beforehand and you know, like Carly said, you walk in and like your brain goes blank. It's just you're freaking out and you just feel all this pressure because not only does it feel like life or death, and it literally is sometimes, but also it takes forever to get these appointments. And you just feel like you have to make the most of it. And if you don't, like, you feel like you just messed up your chance at getting care, and then you have to wait like another like 3 to 6 months or even longer. And like that pressure is just so much sometimes. But I try to make notes on my phone. I will try to like it just feels so like weird sometimes, but I'm in front of a mirror like practicing what I'm saying. I'm like, do I look assertive enough? Like, can I be taken seriously? Or I'll kind of like jab off like my sister or like with my partner to try and figure out like, hey, does this sound okay? Am I making myself clear? Like I know what I mean, but does that meaning like, are you understanding what I mean? Because I feel like doctors really won't ask for clarification. You'll say something confusing and they'll be like, okay, fair enough, next. And yeah, so just making notes and kind of practicing it, going through it. And like, I think it's just like, especially having the notes app on your phone, like you can just constantly update it with whatever you need to. And it doesn't even have to be like a like well-written essay or something. It can be like bullet points. It doesn't even have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to
Yeah.
make sense to you.
Yeah, I think in the chat, someone also mentioned writing things down, creating a journal if you need to take it to your rheumatologist. And I think we all kind of agree with that as well. So thank you for sharing that. Yay. Another comment that we have is don't take no for an answer. And if you don't feel heard, please find someone who will listen.
Yes.
Yes, preach. So we talked a lot about like advocacy and self-advocacy. And so now I kind of wanted to, jump into research and initiatives and things that you've been doing to kind of not only just advocate for yourself, but starting to advocate for others. And maybe, Emily, if you want, you can kind of guide them through that sort of conversation. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So I know both of you have been really active in engaging with other people who have chronic conditions. Maybe if you can talk about why you started to do that and what it meant to you and what you do, that would be amazing. And maybe I'll call on Anna first this time.
Okay. I I started on Instagram because like when I was doing my initial like research into like chronic illnesses and stuff, I came across a lot of stuff on Instagram of people sharing like their lived experience and what it looks like living with a chronic illness and doing everyday things when you have a chronic illness, because it's hard to find like studies or like any like official information on that. You just have like what's going on in the body. So I felt weird kind of engaging with that content on my personal Instagram account, because I was like, at that point, not anymore, but at that point, I was like feeling really vulnerable, and I didn't want to be like judged by family or friends or something for like, you know, liking stuff and reposting stuff, and then it comes up on like their feed or whatever. So I made like a separate Instagram account, and for I want to say the first like 6 or 7 months, I didn't post that much. I was mostly just looking at other people's content, just, you know, figuring out what kind of stuff I was learning and what I felt like I could contribute, like my own experience. So yeah, I started on Instagram, and I found a lot of like people going through similar experiences. So I started connecting with them, talking to them. And I also found like a lot of organizations. You know, I found Take a Pain Check, and it's been great just connecting with people who are young and going through similar things all over the world, but also just in Ontario, because sometimes it feels like yeah, these conditions exist and people have them somewhere probably, but like it feels so abstract and it can make you feel so lonely. But knowing that there's people here like going through the same things, it's kind of comforting and you feel less alone. So like Take a Pain Check really helped me in that way. And then I also found like Health Union, which is a site where you can like talk about your specific conditions and like your lived experience with it, but also like you can discuss research and other things. And I feel like I've learned a lot from that. And I feel like I've also had stuff to share there. So that's been really nice. And I feel like just being a part of these things, I've just also learned how to talk about like my illnesses like in a way that makes more sense to me, but I feel like it also makes more sense to other people. And I feel like it makes me more confident to actually communicate with others about like accessibility needs. Like that's a big thing for me now that I didn't know as much about, but I'm just really big on accessibility now. And you know, that's something I try to encourage wherever I can, because I know asking for accessibility needs can be really hard, especially when people are like you see it with COVID kind of, where people are like, okay, like, yeah, people are struggling, but you know, everyone has to get back to normal. But it's like, no, we got to care for everyone. And I just try to like get that point across, just really big on accessibility. And I feel like being a part of these initiatives has helped me figure out what specifically I want to like talk about or focus on in my advocacy, but also how to go about doing that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think even for me, like when Anna joined Take a Pain Check, it's really nice to see you kind of tell me, you know, some of the needs that other people need, like I need. Okay, but for example, we had this Zoom call, and you know, I didn't know how to put live transcription on Zoom, and I've seen like all the time on Zoom calls, like my teachers need to put live transcriptions. And when Anna brought that up to me, I was like, okay, this is something that I need to start implementing. Like, and that's when I was like, the next day, I like literally changed my Zoom settings to get that on. And if people take that active, you know, effort to make things more accessible, it really makes a big difference to not just one person's life, but other people's lives. So shout out to you, Anna, for helping me with that. But yeah, I'll pass it to Carly, just so you can talk about, you know, what you've been up to.
What have I been up to? I'm gonna mainly focus around needs, which is where I work. I had been getting into advocacy before that, mostly on Instagram. Love Instagram. Deeply inaccessible platform, like on the tech side, but like love Instagram. And so it's really embarrassing. I couldn't get a summer job my first year in Ottawa, so I'm like, well, I'm disabled. Let's check out some disability orgs. And so I literally email needs like, hey, can I volunteer over the summer, because I couldn't get a job. And they're like, we have a job opening, you want to apply? And then I got the job. Like, stellar. Okay, so to the actual needs stuff. So needs acronym, National Educational Association of Disabled Students. I know, right? It is a buy-in for cross disability charity, and it supports full access to employment and education for post-secondary students and graduates with disabilities. Emphasis on buy-in for, just working with a completely disabled team, completely about disability issues. God, it's like the best thing I've ever had in my entire life, and I'm just so happy with it. So a few of the things we do, we have websites on rights, employment. We have, as far as I know, the world's largest directory of online disability-specific scholarships. And a really cool project we have is Virtual Access for All. And it is a 3-year education and awareness campaign with reports on accommodations and accessibility, and regular webinars on topics like self-advocacy. So for my job, which lets me pay my bills and live my life, I get to research self-advocacy, make content on it, and also just like research any disability issue I want. Like, they just let me loose. And it's just so exciting because when someone believes in you, and I mean, like, it's fulfilling and meaningful employment at its finest. So that's really helped me boost my advocacy. And I'll be real, saying I'm a disability researcher, it's helping me get my foot in the door. And we shouldn't have to have credentials. Our lived experience should be enough, but researching and communicating has really, really helped. And something terrifying that I do for my job is that I advocate for disabled post-secondary students across Canada on the federal level. This is the part where I stopped giving too many details, but I was at this consultation that was really consequential and specifically about disabled post-secondary students. And I was the only actually disabled post-secondary student there. And when you know that you are the only chance for our lived experience to get across, I mean, any hesitation you ever have around self-advocacy just completely leaves. Like, I don't care if I look bad. I don't care if I embarrass myself. I don't care if I come across as angry or assertive or, I don't know, nonsensical. Because what are they going to do? I'm the only one in the room that is literally qualified to speak on this. And it's also just a lot of responsibility and something I take like really seriously, but it's also something I still can't wrap my mind around. And a really cool thing about my job is that I get to meet with disabled student groups across Canada, and I get to learn about what's happening at their schools, what's happening with their governments. And God, it's just like the coolest thing of my whole life. And I mean, I won't get into it. That's my highlight of self-advocacy. But something I am working on, especially in the Advocacy Work Needs does, is to bring back the constructive dialogue kind of vibe I use with self-advocacy. Because when it's not so personal, I mean, it feels a little less personal consequential. Like, I don't care if I look bad, there's bigger fish to fry here. So I'm working on reincorporating being nicer in my advocacy, hearing them out. Because I was like in consultation 3 out of 3. I've said everything I need to say. And I listened to them for like the first time. I should have listened to them the whole time. And I'm like, oh, they listened to me. They want exactly what I want. We're working towards the same goal. And then I just felt awful for like being so mean to them. So I've learned from that. I'm being a lot nicer. But again, just meeting with like disabled student groups across Canada, learning their situations, learning how they're approaching advocacy, and just being given the tools to help others advocate for themselves. We sign letters of support. We will do some media outreach. We'll do what we have to do to help them. And just having that position, that platform is life-changing. Follow at my needs on Instagram.
Yes, please do. So, but yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing all the initiatives you're kind of working on, both of you. Like, it's really interesting because I've been kind of looking into my needs as well. Like, just, you have a lot of people messaging and talking really about high school accommodations, university accommodations, how to jump from high school to university. And that's also a big step for advocacy as well, right? Like, it changes from high school to university, and that's all what My Needs is all about. So check them out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I also find that when you're having resources and you're able to refer to things that people have been working on for years, like, we've talked a bit about our own experiences and how it could have been negative or frustrating, but knowing that there's other people who've done the same thing, who are advocating for what you want, and there's links that you can send people to say, hey, this is something important that you'll see at XYZ organization. I know the Canadian Arthritis Patient Alliance has done a lot of work on advocating for patients with arthritis with all ages, and being able to see the amazing work that a shared group of individuals has worked together to make sure it's prioritized is always so rewarding, but also validating, right? Like to see that what you care about is actually being worked on. I find that helps with the frustration, even though we shouldn't be feeling frustrated because it shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, would you be able to kind of give us some tips and strategies on like, you know, how can someone actually become their own self-advocate? I know we've given examples of what we've done, but if you had to give advice to someone, like where should they start? What strategy should they use? I'll pass it to Carly.
Um, Check out my blog. I made a post. So sorry, now that that's out of the way, understand that like you are the most qualified to advocate for your needs and your experiences and your goals, because literally no one knows you like you do. You are your best bet. You are your best asset. And realizing that's going to make you feel a lot more empowered and a lot more qualified. Also, acknowledging that you have to self-advocate because you're living in a system that is meant to exclude and oppress you. You are not, you don't have to self-advocate because there's something wrong with you. You don't have to self-advocate because you messed up. You are going against a really bigger system and a lot of overlapping systems. So just acknowledging that and knowing you can only do your best and that there's a lot of things you're up against, and just being kind and compassionate with yourself is really going to help. Um, and also realizing advocacy is a two-way street. I mean, like sometimes I do want to yell at my student, accommodation service, like, why are you like this? But it's going to be more constructive and better for everyone if we do have those constructive dialogues and some open and honest conversations, even if I don't want to do that sometimes. And then also reaching out if you are, uncomfortable about self-advocacy. Don't put it off forever, but don't deny yourself the help you need either. You have to kind of balance that. So whether that's, a family member, I'm pretty sure you can like get professional patient advocates or something. Maybe Kappa knows something about that. But just, reaching out if you can't do it alone, don't be afraid to do that. And I guess finally, like working through the discomfort and the choked up throat and the tears and everything if you have to, because self-advocacy, like it's hard. It is universally hard. No one wants to do this, but it gets easier over time. And it might still be hard tomorrow, but it's going to be a little less hard. And I think it's like the ultimate act of self-love, starting to self-advocate, because it really empowers your future self to reach their goals and their full potential. I think that's it for my tips.
Cool. Anna?
I feel like it's gonna be hard at first. It's kind of like being the new kid at school. Like it's gonna be a struggle at first, but it will get better and you're gonna get more comfortable. It's just you have to be really kind and patient with yourself as you learn, but also as others around you learn. Um, like it can be frustrating when you're kind of trying to like explain your needs and people aren't getting it or taking it seriously, but you just have to keep doing it because eventually it might click for them, or they might just accommodate you to get you to stop talking about it. And that's fine because if my needs are met, that's great.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing. It's just you can't stay quiet because nothing's going to change. Like Carly said, like this is an oppressive system. Like when we're advocating, it's not because, there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with the system. And if something's wrong, you have to mention it to someone. And it just sucks that there are so many like roadblocks and obstacles that we go through in like every part of like our care and like even just being diagnosed and even just the available information to learn more. But you just gotta keep at it. And I think at least like this worked for me. When you start with advocacy, you can just kind of be on the sidelines for the first bit, kind of take everything in, learn what's happening, learn what other people do. Also see like of the things that other people are doing, what would you be comfortable with? Like talking to other people is kind of hard for me, but I've gotten better with it. But when I first started, I would only ever just like message people, or if they messaged me, like that's all I would do. Like just also just assess your needs and what you're comfortable with at the time, and just be patient with yourself. You're good. It's going to be hard and it's going to be a struggle, but it is worth it, because not only will you be making a change like in your life and also in like others' lives, but you're going to be like learning a lot. And it's like, even though it's not like official research or something, you're constantly learning and engaging with like new information, and that can be overwhelming. And this isn't even in the context of like school or anything. This is just your everyday life, but you're doing research. And like, be kind to yourself as you would if you were like doing a bunch of readings in school. You'd be like, I did a lot, I'm going to take a break. It's the same thing. Like, it's not belittling what you're doing, recognizing that it is a big thing that you're doing. It's a hard task to undertake, but it's worth it, and it it will make a difference. Like, regardless of whether it's like small scale or large scale, like it makes a difference, and it's going to be helpful in the long run, and you're going to make a lot of connections. Like, you're going to like end up talking to other disabled people, and you're also going to end up talking to people who might not be disabled, but they're actually understanding, and that makes all the difference. So it's just about putting yourself out there.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Wow, wise words, everyone. We have a lot of comments in the chat. Someone said, such helpful advice. Really need to hear that. Thank you. Someone said, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday back to you. Someone said, Sarah was a self-advocate at age 20, died last year from medical gaslighting. She had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a rheumatic disease. Feel free to educate. Google Sarah Ahmed, support her page, Sarah's Foundation. Thank you so much for sharing, and we'll definitely check that page out. And then I think that's such wise words, everyone. Thank you for sharing. Good job, everyone. But yeah, I think on the topic of just like advocacy itself and like advocating for yourself and reaching out, like these people, like everyone on this call today and everyone even in the chat that's participating, like these are people you can reach out to if you need help with advocacy, like Take a Paycheck, HAPA, My Needs, like Health Union. These are all organizations that, you know, if you need anything, like they're there for you. And so if you need advice about self-advocacy, you need advice on how to advocate for others, like we all have experience in different situations of advocating, and if we don't, we will be able to redirect you to the right person. So definitely feel free to reach out if you do need advice, and hopefully this live has helped people. And yeah, Emily, I'm gonna pass it to you if you have any other
Yeah.
questions.
No, I just wanted to say thank you to Carly and Anna, and obviously to Take a Paycheck and Kappa for having this amazing conversation. And I don't think it ends here either. I think this is just talking about the work that we always continue to do. But maybe I can ask Carly and Anna if they have any like last words. I know those tips were literally amazing. But if they want to do like some promo, or if they want to have like a last, like, I don't know, sentence before we end it, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So, Carly first.
I could drop some wisdom, or I could promo needs. So I know what to do. Follow up My Needs on Instagram. We have websites, we have advocacy, we have really cool financial support program, scholarships everywhere. Please apply. And then I also have a blog, and I wrote a whole thing about self-advocacy, if that's more your jam. And I'm going to keep writing about weird, uncomfortable stuff. If you're not disabled and listening, learn. If you are disabled and listening, it might give you some community. It might help you out. Then some raw wisdom. Like, there's always going to be people going through something similar. Seek them out, make a community, because that is going to be completely sustaining and very empowering. Yeah.
Anna?
I know that like advocacy can seem like overwhelming and just very serious and like stressful, and especially dealing with like illnesses and disability. Like, that's so serious and heavy in itself. And sometimes you just want to like not get away from it, but just have like a more positive experience, a more fun, like lighthearted experience. And that's the thing with advocacy. It can be anything you want. It can be any way you want. Like if you're just making TikToks where you're just using funny audios and just relating them to your chronic illness, and that's the extent of your advocacy, that counts. And if that's a fun way for you to do it, go for it. Like advocacy can be fun. It can be whatever you want it to be. You can do it in any way that you want that feels comfortable. So it doesn't always have to be this big stressful thing. Like it can also bring a lot of like disabled joy, like that you get from also like connecting with other disabled people who you don't have to explain things as much. You'll just be like, yeah, I'm having brain fog, and everyone's like, yeah, same. And it's really validating.
I agree. Like literally TikTok, if you haven't followed Take a Paycheck on TikTok or even Anna's TikTok, Anna, what's your at on TikTok?
At chronically ill exo.
And at Take a Paycheck. And I don't know, Carly, do you have TikTok? Nope. No. Oh, well, check it out. It's actually pretty hilarious. Maybe because they're a little bit biased, but honestly, it is funny. So check it out. And hopefully it supports a lot of people. A lot of people that have even joined Take a Paycheck found us on TikTok. So I think it definitely is a different social media platform that is creating change. So if you do need support in that aspect, you know, or you need to laugh one day, it's always there for you. Yeah. Any other last thoughts or words? Any questions in the chat? You know, if you want to ask our guests or even the hosts of this live, you know, any questions you have about self-advocacy or advocacy in general, our work, feel free to maybe ask that right now. But yeah, we'll just be chilling here for a few minutes. If you have any questions, you are also wise. I always thought that youth with JIA and disability are wise beyond their years. Thank you, Lori. And hi, Carrie. You are all amazing. It is so important to talk about self-advocacy. Thank you. Thank you, Cassie, for coming and watching our live. Any other questions or comments? Nope, I don't see anything. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into our self-advocacy live today. Thank you to our guests. Thank you, Kappa, and obviously also Take a Paycheck, which is literally so many people. You know, there's so many people working behind the scenes that actually created, you know, this idea, this live. So thank you, everybody. And if you do want to reach out to any one of us, we will definitely save this live stream and then link everyone's ats in the chat. But yeah, thank you, everyone, and have a great Sunday. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Love it.
Okay. Bye.